So finally, chapter 384, the shifting water mirror and the residual radiance of the battle flame. We are going to cover this chapter all the while keeping in mind that the translations are rough, and I'd like to personally take a look at the original Japanese version and run them through some language translations as well to get different opinion on things. So chapter 384 starts off with Guts in a clam sinking deeper and deeper into the water inside the stupa. On page 5, Guts is thinking to himself, I wish I could go back to what it was. Just back. Yes, back to where I once was. Guts' desire to go back to where he once was reminds me of how just before Griffith's eclipse is triggered, he fell from the carriage and dissociated from the horrible reality of his present moment and into this dream state where Casca is taking care of him. Not sure if this is an accurate take, however, or just me equating it deliberately with Griffith's eclipse. On page 6 and 7, Guts seems to be going more into lamenting the negative force he has been in the world of Berserk. He says, as he cuts down his enemies, since the beginning, what I have done was wrong. Fear, anger, and countless battles. The previous page showed him killing people, while this one shows the dead lying around him and everything is on fire, as Guts' face is shrouded in darkness with the beast of darkness' sinister eyes and smile plastered onto it. Even though Guts is clad in the Berserker armor here, his face itself is not covered in the armor's helmet. The impression I get from it is Guts' own view or admission to himself that he enjoyed the killing of people, much like the apostles do. Both the faces in this panel and the one above it actually reminds me of some events from the Lost Children arc, where one of the many demon children in the form of Flame, who looks and behaves like a child and cries like a child, asks for his mother. And Guts immediately cuts him down, and there's this sinister delight on his face as he does so. I'm seeing on this page an admission of the dark side of his here. Page 8. On this page, the line, the sadness, the suffering are mine, which very likely is a loose translation and so can be seen two ways in my opinion. A, as facing one's pain by acknowledging that it is one's pain, that it exists, which is a good step in my opinion, and B, which is the more accurate take for this page in my opinion, that Guts is blaming himself here for the suffering that befell the life of anyone he has ever come close to, without even examining if he is the cause of it or not. A few things that come to mind from this are the following. Throughout the Golden Age arc part of the manga, Guts asserting his will in any way that counters Griffith's is positioned as unnatural by Casca, by Corkus, and of course by Griffith, who is the one chosen by fate, who is a special key in his own words. When Guts returns from his training a year later, Casca too blames him for doing something completely normal, that is, going his own way and living his own life and finding a purpose for himself. But verbally stated reasons are not always actual reasons. Casca likely said that to hide her own feelings. That she's not angry because Guts left Griffith, but that he left her. And Guts calls her out on her double standard by telling her that he's just doing what Griffith is. I point this out because even though Guts did go his own way, a side of him is still locked in the framing that he should have just not asserted himself in any way, whereas Griffith asserted on him like he was his personal possession, even stating publicly, I will decide where you die. This, the suffering, the sadness are mine, remind me of both Guts' tendency to not get close to people because of his trauma, because getting close to people and that relationship exploding hurts, And he again and again blames himself for that relationship exploding when often, if not always, he had valid reasons to behave that way and was just doing what others were. In fact, it was often others who pressed the detonation button on the relationships. So again, Guts here is drowning in his negativity and self-pity, which again reveals his basic fear of getting close to people and how he blames himself even when he himself was not the cause of said relationship exploding. Page 9 is a scene from immediately after Guts left the Hawks and is mulling whether he yet again threw something that was precious that he had today for the promise of something tomorrow. He is mulling whether the whole dream stuff is even his own idea, even his own will, since Griffith's words were what triggered the whole thing. Then he is visited by Skull Knight, who warns him of the coming eclipse. I'll come back to Skull Knight's words further along in the video. Page 10. Guts continues his inner monologue. If I had never met them, Karma would not have been bound. They, she, surely. This is him continuing to blame himself for what happened to the Hawks, to Casca, and is entirely blaming himself for it. It reminds me of this quote by David Foster Wallace: "There's a lot of narcissism in self-hatred." He dislikes himself so much that he denies their agency, their responsibility in all of what happened and blames it all on himself. That is self-centered in the opposite orientation that Griffith is in. Where Griffith uplifts himself to godly level, Guts thinks of himself as the worst of the worst. Notice the stark difference between Griffith's thoughts when he is in the Tower of Rebirth and Guts' thoughts here in the Stupa. In the Tower of Rebirth, Griffith was thinking how he knows he is special and that people treat him with admiration or disdain, and how he has used that to grasp everything in his hands. He also wonders how someone like him, as described above, happened to fall in control or in the hands of someone like Guts. He is not at all thinking of taking responsibility of his actions, or that he had some blame in it, or that he should not have lost his shit after losing to Guts, just as he expected and saw Guts not lose his shit when he lost to him thrice. But instead, what is Griffith doing? Mulling about losing control, which is how he related with people his whole life. Friendship, love are terrifying to him, for he may lose control, thereby showing how he is the complete opposite of Guts, but both are self-centered in the same way. Keep in mind that I am not ascribing any right or wrong morality framework here. If Guts embodies self-rejection to the point that it blinds him to the truth of the situation and himself, Griffith then embodies a delusional self-affirmation to the point that it too blinds him to his own behavior towards people and therefore the truth of the situation and the truth of himself. Page 11. As Guts continues falling and combing over all the wrong, real or invented caused by his actions, he continues his thoughts. No, it's already too late. Even as someone is trying to catch his attention, he finally hears someone's voice, at first illegible, but which nonetheless keeps trying to catch his attention in spite of Guts telling it to leave him alone. I could be wrong, but the last panel here reminds me of when Shirky first tries to bring Guts to his senses when he dons the Berserker armor. She jumps into the fiery enflamed image of the Beast of Darkness that he projects in his own mind, and within this she gets sucked in by the various visions of the eclipse and reaches Flora's seal placed on Guts' ego to protect it from collapse. Perhaps this is the same kind of interaction that Guts and Shirky had in the same kind of place within oneself. Since the darkness and silence inside the stupa blurs the line of the within and the without, the external and the internal. The chapter where this happened was called Departure of Flame, referring to Flora. Page 12. And on page 12, that voice that keeps trying to catch Guts' attention keeps telling Guts to look, look, as a flame takes form in front of him. Page 13. And on page 13, it continues to say, look, look, your being, which in my opinion may be saying to Guts to look at his being, that is, his self properly, since all he is doing is being negative. As the flame says this, it takes the form of Flora. It seems like Flora might have left something of her essence marked in a seal on Guts' ego. At least that is my guess. But I wonder if she was always inside or if she came from the outside, since in Daiba's words, even his own magic can't penetrate the interior of the stupa, whose interior and exterior are disconnected. So Flora may not have come into the stupa from the outside, but instead may have always been with Guts. She must have prepared for such a situation if it ever arises, just as she prepared for the possibility of Guts' ego collapsing if he wore the Berserker armor and so applied a talisman there. Guts, looking at the flame, says, "What are these?" Either the question is addressed to these tiny creatures in the flame, or he is not recognizing Flora here. But since he uses the word these, it likely refers to the tiny elf or elementals-like creatures made of flame. If you pay attention, you may notice some of their eye markings resemble the Beast of Darkness's eyes. Could it be Beast of Darkness seen in another light? That is the light that is hidden by something that we ourselves clad in the appearance of darkness because we did not want to look at it, because it caused us pain and discomfort to look at it. That is that which Guts does not want to see, his trauma, his shadow, that is the Beast of Darkness himself. Flora, for this is Flora for sure, since the last panel in this page most likely reuses this pose of Flora, then goes on to say, "The time has come for the one who struggles, born of darkness, O you of the threshold." Page 14. Then Flora says to him, "Look at your own self and recognize yourself." This is a call by Flora to look at the rejected sides of himself, and I see an echo of Jungian shadow integration and individuation, that is, transcending avidya by knowing the self here. Accepting oneself is the toughest thing there is. As Jung puts it, to love somebody else in the first place is always an escape which we all hope for, and we all enjoy it when we are capable of it. But in the long run, it comes back. You cannot stay away from yourself forever. You have to return to know whether you can really love. That is the question, whether you can love yourself, and that will be the test. Getting back to the page, the tiny beings of fire that are on Flora's side look like mischievous children for some reason. I also want to point out, as it just came in my mind, that when Flora dies, her demon form is a form made of flame, and the Apostle Grunbelt can't tame this flame. Additionally, when Shirky gets inside the Berserker armor, she sees the Beast of Darkness clad in flame. The beast, who is also Guts' rage, is described as Hellfire by Flora, and this chapter name has the words residual radiance of the battle flame. Does it refer to Flora, or does it refer to the Beast of Darkness, I wonder? It's most likely the latter, even when Flora, in a flame form, takes up center stage in this chapter. Page 15. In page 15, Flora says everything, as her arms wrap around Guts and he's wrapped by her and possibly his own flames in the form of the Beast of Darkness, and the moment this happens, Guts' form twists and distorts and stretches and is then pulled in a direction. Page 16. In page 16, we see Guts bombarded by his painful memories, training with his father Gambino, and going all the way back to his stepmother Shisui, finding him as a newborn child under his real mother's corpse. to Guts' killing Gambino, all painful, traumatic memories. Page 17. Then on page 17, we see the scene where Guts was first found by his stepmother Shishui. But instead of Guts as a baby, there is someone else there, someone seemingly demonic. It is the demon child of Guts and Casca, who he hates and fears just as Gambino, that is, his father, hated and feared him. The circle comes back to the starting point with Guts seeing himself or his self as that which he was fearing and hating all along. The demon child has one left eye like Guts has as well, a subtle foreshadowing that he is Guts' child and that in a way he also symbolizes the terrifying things Guts rejects in himself. Page 18. Now, starting from page 18, things get a bit hard to understand for me. Hopefully, with better translations, these pages will make more sense. Previously, in page 13, Flora had called him Born of Darkness, O you of the Threshold. And now, she is saying, continuing from where she left off, everything, the influence of your mother who gave you life. That's right, you were born of the light. Here's what I glean from this. First of all, visually, we see the first panel of the demon child, who Guts here is seeing as himself, starts to transform in the second panel to have a more human form. And then finally, if I'm not understanding this wrong, this child transforms into the baby Guts we found under the tree. That is, it is a progression from the demon fetus to baby Guts, which reminds me of a page from the Tower of Conviction arc when Griffith finally incarnates onto Earth as a demon fetus who has fused into his shell to reincarnates into the Moonlight Boy. We see it go from a baby that is the demon fetus as a normal looking baby to Griffith. And here on page 18, it goes from demon fetus to baby Guts as Flora's words contradict or correct her previous words of Born of Darkness, which maybe is Guts' view of himself as someone who is born in darkness, to now correcting it to you were born of the light. Is this symbolically reframing Guts' understanding of his rejected self and seeing the light in the darkness? Could be so. I am reminded of Griffith's words as he stands before the double reincarnated Ganishka. He says, "He who bears light exists in the deepest shadow, and it is within darkness that true light is discovered." This is also echoed in a slightly different way in an adage in alchemy. "In filth it will be found." Or stated best by Joseph Campbell, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." So again and again in different systems and by different people, we are told this light is found in darkness, in filth, in terrifying caves. Why? Because these repulsive and scary places hold that which we do not wish to see in ourselves. So I see this line in page 18 potentially showing Guts by personal experience that which he rejects in himself as darkness is actually light, just as Griffith was shown by personally experiencing idea of evil, the light that lies behind the darkness that broke his mind. And on top of that, this entirely reframes Guts' negative view of himself as a cursed child and see that he is not actually a bad person. Page 19 and 20. Both of these pages go on to say the spirit realm and the mortal worlds, the perilous threshold. You are not of the spiritual realm and neither of the real world. You are everything. Visually, we see baby Guts' physical form being reflected by a form of light, creating a pair of opposites of matter and spirit. And then in the next panel, it is reversed as if to echo the lines that say you are neither the physical nor the spiritual. And then in the next panel, we see a cloud or a white liquid mixed in water, or a storm or swirl-like pattern, perhaps resembling the spirit realm here, and the form of the baby, clad in light, is coming down towards the clam-like shell that Guts is in, as it lies on a bedrock of absolute darkness. And in page 20, it enters into Guts as the clam starts to rise back to the water surface from abject darkness, as the light has been found in the darkness. A few thoughts on this line. The spirit realm and the mortal worlds, the perilous threshold. You are not of the spiritual realm and neither of the real world. You are everything. In religions like Hinduism, which depending on your understanding are either polytheistic or polymorphic monotheism, and or monistic, that is the universe, that is everything, is one single thing called Brahman or God. The experience of this Brahman, that is the self or the supreme self, is the experience of the whole, that is everything. Meaning that you are not only the physical, that is your body, neither are you the spiritual. You are everything, and everything is one, which is called Brahman, that is ultimate reality or supreme self. In Buddhism, at the bottom of everything is the non-self, which is the ground of being itself. That is, it is the version of everything in Buddhism. So I see parallels to both these religions in this statement by Flora, which I think is most likely stated in one form or the other in all historic sites of religions from around the world. Page 21. This page continues with the clam breaching the water surface and opens up to Guts in agony. Page 22. We see him having trouble integrating the child, that is his self, and he cries out. Page 23. The wording on this page has me confused a bit. It says, since you were born, you are someone who resides in the spirit world. Your other half, you already knew it, that foreign side, as we see Guts' face in absolute agony as he struggles to integrate this self of his, as several memories from his life are shown around him. Chi-Chi's withered flower, Zord, the eclipse, the Behelit, the ghoul-possessed skeletons. I have a few takes on this. One way to see this is the following way. Because Guts was born close to that, he knows of the spirit world since his birth, and so he knows his other half, that is his foreign side as well. Perhaps this is a roundabout way of saying, on account of being born and living, you have always known of your dark side. Since you were hiding from it at every chance you got. You hide from what? That which you know but you do not want to face. So you have always known but pretended otherwise. This may be the opposite and therefore the lighter side of the darker version of what Conrad and Ubik in disguise said to Griffith during the eclipse. That he, Griffith, always knew that his path was like this. While Ubik and Conrad were manipulating Griffith in the form of a demented psychologist, Flora here is doing the complete opposite. Perhaps she is reminding Guts that he has always known his darkness, his unknown self. He just did not want to see it, and now he just has to acknowledge and accept it. Maybe I am stretching things here. Let me know what you think in the comments. The other take that I have seen people have based on another translation of this chapter is that Griffith is Guts' other half. They even cite Skull Knight's first encounter with Guts, where he says the following: "You and your friends, those of the fleshless flesh, and that unkingly half of yours, shall all be gathered then in that place." Here is that unkingly half referring to Griffith? That is possible. Or is it referring to Guts' shadow, that is the side of him he does not want to face? That is possible as well. Page 24. Page 24 then shows both Guts and Griffith's halves in the astral form and says, "You and he are the same. Both are dwellers of the threshold." And it ends by saying, "Confront oneself and reach the unknown self." It again draws parallels between Griffith and Guts, that they are the same in that they both dwell in the threshold. Bouncing off of this, I had this idea that I had been noodling in my head for a while. It is something like this. Contrary to what people may think, the shadow, according to Jung, is not our negative side but anything that we reject, which can be good or bad. His student, Marie-Louise von Franz, cited the case of a Jungian analyst who worked with hardened criminals as saying that criminals can have very positive shadows. What this means is that the criminal so used to crime, for him, the unknown about him is his own inner good. So, if the shadow of Guts is the beast of darkness, then what is the shadow of Griffith if not the Moonlight Boy? Both the beast of darkness and the Moonlight Boy, when they take charge, overwhelm both of them. In the Berserker form, the beast of darkness overwhelms Guts' ego into forgetting who he is, and he then acts out madness and evil senselessly and indiscriminately. For Griffith, this is the opposite. For he who is so accustomed to evil and transgression on a global scale, it is his own good in the form of the Moonlight Boy that overpowers him every night when there is a full moon. And just like Guts loses his sanity to the beast of darkness via the Berserker, Griffith too loses himself in forgetfulness via possession by the Moonlight Child. Guts becomes a beast by becoming possessed by his shadow, whereas Griffith, who has already become a beast, becomes an innocent child on possession by his shadow, that is the Moonlight Boy. And furthermore, both Guts and Griffith are shadows of each other. Guts does not accept the Griffith-like side within him, which for example came out when he tried to force himself on Sasuke. And Griffith does not accept that Guts-like side within him, which came out in spite of him and saved Casca at the Hill of Swords. This way, I can see them be each other's halves in the sense that they are a reflection of each other's unacknowledged selves. That's it for now. If I can come up with a video before the release of the next chapter, which is likely to be on the 26th of this month, it will in all likeliness be on Rakshas. If you have made it till here, be sure to check out my other videos and subscribe. Till next time, fellow strugglers.